Welcome back to the channel. Today's story is unlike anything you've seen before. What happens when one of Hollywood's most legendary actors clashes with one of late-night television's most fearless hosts? What was meant to be a standard promotional interview quickly turned into a high-stakes verbal standoff. One so intense, it ended with Harrison Ford walking off the set mid-interview. It all started as it normally did. Harrison Ford arrived on the set to deafening applause. The Hollywood veteran, with his dry, no-nonsense personality, flashed the audience a quick smile as he settled in. Opposite him was John Stewart, the king of stinging wit and naked truth. Everything was, at first, business as usual. Light jokes about Ford's new film, some chuckles, until Stewart's tone changed abruptly. "So, Harrison," he started out, "let's discuss your new movie. But more to the point, why do you insist on doing this? And I mean this in all respect. You are entirely miserable looking each time." The audience tittered awkwardly. Ford drew his brow up. "I don't know what you're referring to. I like my job," he replied with a steady voice. But Stewart was not giving in. "Come on," he insisted. "Every press junket, every interview, you seem like someone's dragging you there. The eye rolling, the flat responses, the general disdain. It's as if you despise doing this." Ford shifted slightly in his chair, clearly agitated. "There's a difference between not enjoying publicity and not enjoying acting," he said. "I've been in this industry for over 4 decades. I've earned the right to handle things my own way." Stewart's face tightened. "That's the point, isn't it? You've been going through the motions for years. When did you ever genuinely care about a performance? When did you ever not just play Harrison Ford playing Harrison Ford?" Ford leaned forward, his tone now laced with steel. "That's a pretty brash thing to say for an actor who plays the same character nightly on a talk show." Stewart's smirk dissolved into something chilly. "At least I'm honest about it. I don't fake being an artist while sleepwalking through blockbusters for a paycheck." "You have no idea what my process is," Ford snapped. "You sit behind this desk and taunt people who make actual things. When did you last construct something rather than deconstruct it?" Stewart sat back, his voice condescending. "Touched a nerve, eh? The great Harrison Ford can't handle a little criticism?" Ford glared at him for a full second. Then, wordlessly, he unclipped his microphone, laid it carefully on the chair, and stood up. On live cameras and with an audience holding its collective breath, he walked off stage. It was a shocking moment. No grand exit monologue, no yelling, just seething, silent rage, and a walk-off that became viral in an instant. Afterward, fans and critics were left wondering, was Stewart just playing by the book, or did he cross the line? And was Ford justified in standing up for his reputation, or did he blow up under pressure? Whatever your opinion, one thing's for certain: this interview will go down as one of the most unforgettable, uncomfortable, and raw moments in entertainment history. The energy in the studio had shifted completely. What was once a space filled with light-hearted laughter and playful jabs now felt heavy, tense. The usual rhythm of late-night entertainment had vanished, replaced by an uncomfortable silence that wrapped around the audience like fog. Harrison Ford sat stiff in his seat, his hands clenched around the armrests as he struggled to maintain his dignity. His tone was low and even, but with sparks of controlled anger burning beneath the surface. "You want to know why I don't play games for people like you?" he spoke slowly. "Because this, what you're doing right now, it's not journalism, it's not humor, it's cruelty, presently dressed up and repackaged as entertainment." John Stewart shifted back in his chair, laughing. "Cruelty? Please, I'm asking the same things your fans do. Why do people watch to see you glower through each interview? They find the contradiction fascinating. A man who obviously despises being a film star, but refuses to quit." Ford didn't flinch. "My tie with my audience doesn't require your opinion. I've been speaking to filmgoers since you were performing stand-up in dingy backrooms. I don't owe you, or anybody else, a performance when I'm not on a soundstage." Stewart interrupted sharply. "No, you only owe them a little more than the minimum. These are the folks who created you. And yet with each time you sit in that seat, it's as though you're bestowing an accommodation on them. The cantankerous old man bit? It was endearing 20 years ago. Now it's just pitiful. A ripple of gas went through the crowd. Ford's face grew dark, not with annoyance, but with anger, a look almost never seen on the famously reserved actor. His voice lowered even further. You believe this is a role? Some character I'm playing for show? I'm a private individual performing a public service. That's all. I've never said otherwise. But you've made a career out of mockery. You don't raise anyone up. You break them down, reduce them to punchlines. And now here you are, attempting to be an armchair psychologist as if you are some great thinker, when in fact you're merely one more talking head with a microphone. Stewart remained silent for a second. His characteristic smirk was gone, replaced by one colder, sharper, more menacing. A deep thinker? No, Harrison. I'm merely a person who calls things as they appear to me. And what I see standing here before me is a man who's full of it. All this tortured, reluctant star act, that's the only show you've ever been interested in doing in years. Don't even know what you're talking about, Ford snapped, his voice unyielding, though the anger in his eyes was unmistakable. You have your edited interviews, press tours, your characters, and you think you know everything, but you have no idea of what goes into my work, my life. Stewart leaned in close once more, his tone dripping with sarcasm. Oh, please do tell me about the great artistic satisfaction you derive from donning that fedora once again, or the depth of complexity that comes with playing the same cranky hero in every single film. Because sitting here, it appears that you've been phoning it in for decades. That's when Ford leaned in also, and for an instant, the space between them was charged with the possibility of explosion. You want to discuss going through the motions? He said, his voice cutting, his body dominating. Let's discuss you. Sitting there in the chair, night after night, recycling the same old jokes about celebrities and politicians. Playing the voice of reason behind sarcasm and applause. At least when I phone it in, I don't pretend it's some noble cause. Silence. Heavy. Absolute. The studio fell silent. No laughter, no flashing applause sign. Only a tense quiet as the force of the confrontation descended over the studio like a mist that refused to clear. This wasn't late-night television. This wasn't good-natured sparring or rehearsed tension. This was brutal, unvarnished. Two giants stripping away layers of fame, ego, and persona on live television with the cameras rolling. And it kept getting worse. Stewart's tone turned icy, his voice now laced with something bitter. The difference between me and you, Harrison, is that I'm not lying. I don't show up to sell my work and play like I'm being held hostage. I don't play the audience like it's some burden. You want to be alone? Good for you. Retire. Stop making films. But don't continue to cash the checks and then complain that we're trespassing just by asking you to discuss them. Ford let out a humorless laugh, the sound brittle. Basic requirements? My job is to act, to create characters, to tell stories. Everything else, this circus you're running here, is just noise. And you're the ringmaster, whipping performers into shape, demanding smiles and clever anecdotes for your audience's amusement. At least I'm honest about what this is, Stewart shot back. I don't play at being above it while reaping the rewards. You sit there brooding artist style, as if you're this tortured artist who has to socialize with the common folk. Newsflash, Harrison, you're not Brando. You're not a locked-up genius martyrizing for your art. You're a guy who plays the same grumpy hero over and over again and still can't muster the decency to be thankful for the life it gave you. That did it. Ford's calm cracked like ice under pressure. Grateful? He repeated the word like a challenge. You think gratitude means performing like a trained dog? You interpret it as smiling through tacky insults from individuals who've never even set foot on a movie set. I've committed 40 years of my life to this business. I've broken bones. I've overslept birthdays. I've committed myself to parts. Parts that, sure, may appear the same to someone who never chooses to peer any closer. And now I'm just expected to sit here and politely nod while you distill all of that into a punchline? Stewart's voice grew louder in response. I'm not insulting you. I'm attempting to have a genuine discussion. I'm attempting to comprehend why somebody who appears to despise being noticed continues to pursue it. It's not an easy shot. It's the question everybody's been too afraid to pose. Why continue to appear if you loathe every moment of it? Ford's response arrived like a slap. You're not attempting to comprehend anything. You're attempting to engineer a moment. You want that viral clip, the one in which I crack, where Harrison Ford loses it on the air. Congratulations, John. You got what you were looking for. You wore me down. Is this sufficient for you? Stewart reclined in his chair, staring. I'm treating you with more respect than the rest of the people in this business. I'm not sucking up to you. I'm talking to you like a human being, not some Hollywood monument. Everybody else tiptoes around your cranky genius act. I'm the only one who has the courage to give as good as I get. No, Ford said, standing up so abruptly the audience gasped en masse. His voice was low but firm. You're the only one egotistical enough to think your opinion is more important than human decency. You mask it behind jokes, behind this desk, behind the insulation of your audience, and you throw punches at people who can't punch back without appearing weak. Stewart stood up to greet him, now face to face with none between them. Can't defend yourself? You're Harrison Ford. A call from your people could blacklist me from every A-list celebrity in this city. You could destroy my career overnight. Don't stand there and act like you're the victim. I'm not acting, Ford answered, steady but bristling. The two of them stood there, frozen in silence. The air in the studio charged with something so much more than entertainment. The lights, the cameras, the anticipation of another slick segment, all of that had fallen apart. All that was left was raw, unfiltered, human. And that was when the interview really ended. Ford's tone was icy, free of any diplomatic attempt. That's what you don't get, he said. This isn't a character I'm playing. This is me, a real person. A human being who's tired of people like you acting like fame means I owe you something all the time. I gave the audience my performances. That's where it belongs, on screen. That's what I owe them. Not this. He motioned toward the set. Not these games. Not pretending to enjoy being dissected like a frog for your amusement. They faced each other, the space between them so charged it seemed like it could crack apart. The crowd hung there, motionless in their seats, suspended between the excitement of the show and the unease of having seen something utterly too real. Stewart spoke quietly, his voice meeting Ford's level of intensity. You have an idea what your problem is? You want the benefits of being Harrison Ford, the wealth, the celebrity, the respect, without any of the baggage. You want to exist in your bubble, unscathed, untroubled, and then complain that we're the villains for demanding a little contact, a little thanks. Connection? Ford echoed, half laughing. That's what you're calling this? This spectacle in public where you prod until someone cracks? Connection doesn't occur with bright lights and obligatory smiles. Connection occurs in a dark theater when an outsider witnesses something in a performance and feels it strike them true. Not here. Not in this fixed game where everything's designed to provoke some cheap response. Least I'm doing some math, Stewart exclaimed, voice rising. Least I'm coming. You've been drifting through your career like a specter, hollow, distant, hoping the clock will tick its way out. Do you even know why you started acting? Do you even care anymore? Ford moved forward, his age failing to lighten the mass of his presence. I recall when individuals within this profession were respected, when interviews were discussions, not attacks, when a host realized that a guest was granting their time, not being brought into captivity. You believe that you possess power here? You don't. You're merely shouting louder. Stewart let out a humorless laugh. A favor? You're doing me a favor by appearing? Let me tell you something. Ratings don't lie. People aren't watching for you to talk about craft. They're here to watch you blow your top, to watch the true Harrison Ford burst through that stone facade. This is who I am, Ford declared, voice subdued but laden. A man tired of leeches sucking off the creativity of someone else and calling it commentary. You don't create anything, John. You simply feed off what other people construct, then call yourself witty for dismantling it. Stewart's face turned red. At least I'm not a hypocrite, he snapped. At least I don't try to be some tortured artist and then get to take sequel checks and do press like it's a hostage negotiation. You want to talk about parasites? Let's talk about actors who milk their past like it's a career strategy, who are half-hearted and still get to expect applause. Unprepared, Ford's voice at last came up, rough and unrestrained. You think I am unprepared? I have prepared for parts in pain. I have gone through sleepless nights attempting to grasp characters that have no meaning to individuals such as yourself. Just because I will not dance for your camera does not mean I am not concerned. Oh, your craft, Stewart exclaimed, grabbing the word as a weapon. What's the craft in dusting off that fedora for the 5th time? What's the art in growling through another scene where you're too exhausted to run, much less fight? You're not defending some hallowed tradition. You're just refusing to acknowledge what everyone else is seeing. You've become precisely what you once ridiculed, a worn-out, rich cliché who can't let go. The words hung heavy, like smoke in the air. But Ford did not blow his top this time. His face changed, not with anger, but something else. Something more. A hurt. When he did speak, his voice was low, verging on thoughtful. You know what? He said. You're right about one thing. I am too old, Ford concluded softly. Too old for this. Too old to sit here defending my life to someone who's made a living destroying people. I spent more than 40 years building something, building characters that people cared about, millions of them. And in 15 minutes, you've attempted to whittle away all of that to zero, just because I don't act with a smile for your entertainment. For an instant, Stewart seemed to get the better of him, but then his face hardened once more, detecting a vulnerability and making a grab for it. Building something? He demanded, voice cutting. You've been riding Indiana Jones and Han Solo for decades. When's the last time you were in danger, Harrison? When's the last time you did something that frightened you? You talk about acting like it's sacred, but let's be honest. You've been playing yourself for so long, I doubt you even remember what real acting feels like. Ford's response was icy calm, almost too calm. You want to see acting? He said, voice like a blade. Watch this. I'm going to pretend this conversation is worth continuing. I'm going to act like your opinion matters beyond the walls of this studio. That right there? That's the best performance I've ever given. There it is, Stewart answered, victorious. The legendary Harrison Ford dismissiveness, the shield you employ to shut down anyone who challenges you. But I'm not leaving. I'm not stepping back. Because the people watching, they deserve better than your disdain. Ford faced the audience, his eyes sweeping the room. These individuals have come for entertainment, he said sternly, not to see you turn an interview into a demolition derby. You think you're doing this for them? Please, you're doing it for yourself, for the fun of seeing someone break. You wanted to ruffle my feathers. Well, congratulations. You managed it. You happy now? Happy? Stewart repeated, his voice now acidic. Number, I'm disappointed. I believe somewhere behind all that attitude was a man who still had some humility, who still cared. But no, it seems you're another Hollywood narcissist who believes the rules don't apply to him. Ford moved another step closer, reducing his voice to a whisper that nonetheless seemed to fill the entire studio. The rules? He asked. You mean the rule that I'm supposed to sit here and grin through your criticism? The one that I'm supposed to put up with because I'm a celebrity and thus open game for any public shame you care to serve up? Those rules? No, Stewart replied firmly. The rule that when you say you're going to do an interview, you actually come to do it. The rule that you have basic respect for the people who are attempting to have a conversation with you. The rule that if you've elected this existence, you don't get to be a victim each time someone confronts you. I became an actor, Ford declared, his voice steely. I didn't become a dancing monkey for the likes of you. There's a difference between marketing a film and watching a televised character assassination masquerading as journalism. Stewart laughed harshly. Cruelty? You're tossing around that word like I'm a monster or something. I'm asking questions. If what I'm doing feels like cruelty to you, perhaps you should ask yourself why. Perhaps the issue isn't with the questions. Perhaps it's with the answers you don't want to hear. Ford's calm finally broke. His voice grew louder, tight but angry. The issue is that you've already determined who I am. You came into this interview with a narrative in your mind. Harrison Ford, the resentful, ungrateful actor. And you're determined to make me fit that narrative, whether it's accurate or not. The truth, Stewart said, his own voice rising to keep pace with Ford's, is seated right in front of me. A guy who's accumulated hundreds of millions playing make-believe as another person, playing heroes on screen, playing a victim in life, Stewart went on, voice full of disdain. You strut into interviews like you're doing the world a favor by appearing, as if we all should bend our heads in appreciation for your being there. That's not dignity, Harrison. That's ego. And you've forgotten what it is to be thankful. Ford slowly shook his head. There it is again. Thankful. You keep using that word as a battle word, like the idea of being thankful somehow means surrender, like being thankful means I have to just sit back and take every insult, every try to take me apart on national television. But I am thankful, John, thankful for the chances that I've been given, thankful for the folks who've sat through my movies, thankful for a career that has endured longer than most careers in this profession, and I am not thankful for this. He indicated the distance between them, for being baited, mocked, and distilled into a soundbite by a man who mistakes viciousness for wisdom. Dignity, Stewart mocked. Where's the dignity in rolling your eyes through every interview? In playing it like every question is beneath you? You want dignity? Then have a little bit of respect for the people just doing their jobs. Respect is earned, Ford said, voice like ice, and you haven't earned mine. From the second I sat down, you've been trying to provoke me. You weren't interested in a conversation. You wanted a confrontation. Well, you got one. I hope it was everything you dreamed of. Stewart leaned forward, openly belligerent. What's it worth is showing people what you truly are. Not the legend, not the reluctant celebrity, just an old bitter man who can't get his head around the fact that the world no longer revolves around him. There was a silence of a long moment. The room seemed to have held its breath. When he began to speak, his voice was calm, filled with quiet finality. Know what? You are right. I am furious. Furious that I wasted even 5 minutes sitting across from someone who obviously doesn't have the first idea of what respect means. Furious that I let myself believe this would be different. That perhaps, and only perhaps, you'd find substance over hype appealing. But most of all, I am furious at myself for believing someone like you might ever get someone like me. He started to unwind his microphone, his hands slow, unhurried. Stewart eyed him with a flash of victory, tinged now with something akin to uncertainty. Run away, huh? Stewart grunted. That's what you do, isn't it? When someone refuses to go along with your routine, you skip. Ford hesitated, the microphone halfway unwound. He gazed at Stewart. No, John, I'm not running away. I'm walking away. There's a difference. Running means I'm afraid. Walking away means I've decided this, he gestured around the studio, is beneath me. Stewart's voice cracked slightly. Beneath you? This show has hosted presidents, Nobel laureates, cultural icons. None of them thought it was beneath them. They weren't put through this, Ford said quietly, gesturing between them. This is not journalism. It's character assassination, masquerading as a punchline. And I'm not going to do it anymore. He pulled the microphone away entirely and placed it carefully on the guest chair. The crowd remained in stunned silence, unsure whether to applaud, yell, or just stand witness to the moment unfolding before them. Stewart tried one last time. So that's it? Harrison Ford can't answer some tough questions, so he storms off? This is the respect you show your fans? Ford looked back once more. His eyes did not waver. His voice had the soft, unshakable gravity of a man who had stood in front of a camera for 40 years, and now finally was walking away from one. My fans, he replied, understand something you clearly never will. They don't, Ford responded softly, turning once again to the crowd with finality in his eyes. They don't believe I owe them access to my soul because I'm an actor. They believe that privacy is an arrogance, and that having boundaries doesn't make me inconsiderate. What I share with them on screen, that's enough, because it's real. It's honest. He waved his hand slowly over the studio. This, this is the lie. This is the show. And I'm finished performing for you. Ford stood and walked toward the door, his step firm, resolute, and dignified. A man who had said all he needed to say. Behind him, Stewart, his confidence earlier shaken, shouted one last time. Harrison, wait. Come on, we can talk this through. Don't leave like this. But Ford didn't stop. He didn't look back. He continued walking. Beyond the cameras, beyond the crowd, beyond the lights. He left the stage without another word, leaving nothing but an empty seat and a dense silence that appeared to occupy every crevice of the room. Stewart stood alone on his stage, unusually speechless. The typical glibness had abandoned him. The smart alecky quickness, the punchlines, both gone. He looked over at the empty guest chair, an empty reminder of what had just transpired. When he found his voice, it was low, tentative. Well, that happened, he mumbled, trying a half-hearted laugh. But it didn't work. The cameras immediately switched to commercials, leaving millions of viewers speechless and agog, trying to put what they had just seen into perspective. What was intended to be a routine promotional interview had dissolved into something raw, unscripted, and very uncomfortable. A collision of two strong egos, without pretension, revealed nakedly to the world. And when it ended, one thing was certain. This wasn't merely an awkward moment, it was a cultural moment. The studio lights faded. The hum of the crowd never came back. But Harrison Ford's questions would linger long after the cameras were turned off. Was he right to storm off? Or should he have endured and ridden out the criticism? That argument would rage on, online, in publications, in living rooms around the globe. But one thing was sure, this was a moment that would be replayed and analyzed for years to come. A cautionary tale of what can happen when the deliberate staging of celebrity collides with the merciless world of live television. So what's your take? Was Harrison Ford justified in walking off set? Or did he let his temper get the upper hand? Leave your comments below, and if you haven't yet, subscribe for more thrilling moments from the entertainment world undefined. Until next time, keep watching, keep asking questions, and remember, sometimes the most telling moments come after the script goes in the bin.